everybody. It is the Safety and the Sportswriter show with Knoxville, Nate, and Big Joe coming to you live at 6 o'clock on this Thursday night. Getting ready to talk to you about the world of sports. A lot of off-field stuff going on. We can talk about last week's games as we get ready for the Super Bowl. And, of course, that thing they call a Pro Bowl this weekend, I guess, playing flag football. For whatever reason, they're going to do that.
Why even do that? I mean, just give the award out like the Pro Bowl team awards, and have a ceremony or something. I mean, why even do this? I mean, no one's going to watch that crap.
No, you know my feelings on it. I've told them many times. Make that as the Hall of Fame game and get over it. I just think it's ridiculous. These guys are tired at the end of the year. They're beat up. Let them go home. And let that be the first preseason game. Bring in the Pro Bowlers. So that's what I think. But, of course, we have some coaching maneuvers this week. We have Tom Brady clarifying his future, but kind of opening up the door for some interesting possibilities for a Jimmy Garoppolo now or a Derek Carr, especially down in Tampa Bay, where you have a team that is only 2 years away from the Super Bowl, has been a playoff team, and they still got a lot of talent coming back. Let's start there with, first of all, Tom Brady. You and I discussed it many times this year. It's time. He's had a great career. He's not the same player, and it was kind of getting ridiculous to watch. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we heard the narrative after each game where, they were playing garbage teams and they finally scored like their first touchdown in the fourth quarter and they would win by 2 points against the Panthers, whatever. And they'd be like, oh, Brady leads them back for a victory. But really, if you were a true football fan and you watched those games, he didn't look the same. That team didn't look anything like the 2020 team. And I think he actually realized himself it was time to go. I mean, he just, wasn't making reads. He wasn't making throws. It didn't look good all year long. The offense was horrible. Eventually everyone has to retire. I mean, even this guy who's played for 40 years, he has to retire. And, I think he should have done it, honestly, after that 2020 season. You go to another team. You pick the perfect team. I mean, I have to give the guy credit. He picked the perfect team to go to. Arians was the coach. They had a good defensive coordinator and Todd Bowles. They had a decent offensive coordinator that could, kind of facilitate between him and Arians. And they went to the Super Bowl, which I couldn't even believe they won. I'm still not sure they were the best team, but they won. And, right off into the sunset, bro. But he couldn't let it go.
And like you said, he picked the perfect team because he went to a division where, Carolina was a mess. Atlanta was on their way down. All you had to worry about was beating New Orleans, which he didn't really do a good job of. But that was
but he beat the other two teams.
Yeah, so at least he knew he had 4 victories going into that division. So, good luck, good riddance, whatever you want to say. I mean, kind of. This year, I like you said, 2 years too late, at least 1 year too late. He never should have come back for this year. But that being said, let's take a look at, first of all, how does it open up? How does this affect Jimmy Garoppolo? How does it affect Derek Carr? Now I'm hearing that your team, or I should say your team, but the team in your state is looking to move on from Tannehill. If they're going to get rid of him, they get the Jets still looking and somehow conniving to try and get Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Vegas is open. I mean, there's so many places to go. And right now, I think that, you look at it, it's the Jets, the Raiders, and Tampa is a number 3 landing spots for any quarterback that hopes to do something. What do you think?
You talking about like the rest of the guys, not Brady, right?
Right.
Yeah. I think he's pretty much done. I mean, I don't think any of these teams even really want him, to be honest. So, no. I mean, Derek Carr's going to get a job. There's no doubt about it. I mean, honestly, I think Baker Mayfield's going to get a job. There's more jobs open than there are quarterbacks. I think Garoppolo's going to get a job. Where exactly these guys are going to go, I'm not 100% sure right now, but I can tell you this: Derek Carr's situation is kind of finicky because he's got this roster bonus due on February 15th.
Yeah.
Yet the trade, the trade deadline doesn't start till March. So it's a really weird situation where basically they have to tamper with him and trade him before they're allowed to. Now we all know this goes on, but they're going to try and hide it. But they're going to go ahead and deal him. I think Derek Carr will be the first one to move, is what I'm saying. Because he has to, because they have to do it because of contractual obligations. Now, he does have a no trade clause, so he could kind of hold their feet to the fire. But based on what I've heard, he wants out anyway.
Right.
So I think he's going to work with the team, is what I've heard is he's going to work with the team and help them to get him somewhere. I could see him potentially in Carolina. I think that might be a good spot for him. However, they've kind of made it known that they want to draft somebody. The problem is Steve Wilkes did too good of a job towards the end of the year, and they don't have that great of a draft position. And unless they can, work a trade to move up, they do have additional draft capital because of trading away Robbie Anderson, trading away Christian McCaffrey. So potentially they could move up and get one of these young guys. But I could see Derek Carr in New York, and I could see him potentially also in Carolina. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, is kind of a wild card because of his health. I'm not sure where he's at right now, health-wise. I don't think anybody really is. I think people are going to want to get him in and make him pass a physical first and foremost, and then also, have their doctors get their hands on him and see what he's going to look like after that. But I do think he will be probably the second domino to fall because, if you think about it, who are the best available free agent veteran quarterbacks? I would think Derek Carr is probably number one, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would say him. Or I'll take Garoppolo over him if the health was good. Because Garoppolo's won more games, so you got to worry about him. But there's also, let's see, Jameis Winston is signed. There are a lot of intriguing moves out there because you got the Texans who need a quarterback, should draft. I've heard some stuff that the Chicago might be willing because they're drafting high to package Justin Fields. They're not totally attached to him yet.
Nah, he's not going anywhere. I don't think he's going anywhere. I really don't. Let's be honest. Who do the Bears have?
No,
they have nobody. They have no one. They've got so many things. They have so many pieces of need. They have so many holes to fill. Why would you get rid of the one piece that you actually have?
Aren't they picking one or two?
The Bears are picking, I believe, number one.
Yeah. So you could conceivably get Stroud, trade Justin Fields. Let's just throw it out there to the Jets, make up for the Jets' mistake of not taking him in the first place, and get draft capital back.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Justin Fields is better than C.J. Stroud, and I love C.J. Stroud, but I think Justin Fields is better. Plus, he's got 2 years under his belt. So, this guy, anyone who has questions about Justin Fields' ability,
it's not a question.
I'm just saying, anyone who has questions about his ability is an idiot. He's had no help whatsoever. Their offensive line has been garbage ever since he got there. He's had no wide receivers. They've had a decent running game, but really their running game's been good because they didn't know who's going to run it, him or the running backs. But, I don't know. Maybe that'll happen, but my prediction is Justin Fields stays where he's at. But, Geno Smith is a free agent. We also have Daniel Jones is a free agent. He's available. Lots of people are saying he's going to sign back with the New York Giants, but at what price? Are the Giants prepared to give him $40 million? Because that's what he's going to command.
They better be, because the fact of the matter is they have no other choice. They can't. They're the same boat as Carolina. There's no quarterback out there they'd be able to get to replace him, and it's better.
I understand, but it's not a done deal yet. They could have signed him a long time ago, and they did not. Lamar Jackson is a free agent. Is he going back to Baltimore? I'm not so sure that he is. You know what? If I was Lamar Jackson, let me tell you the last place I would go is Baltimore. I wouldn't go anywhere near Baltimore if I was Lamar Jackson. What have they done to help him? Nothing. They haven't given him any money. They haven't given him any receivers. They haven't given him any healthy running backs really the last few years. I mean, they just, you know what, their offensive line has been patchwork at best. They fired the offensive coordinator that developed the offense for him. You know what? The first thing I would do if I was Lamar Jackson is just be like, I'm not coming back here. I would go to Miami if I was him. That would be the best spot for him, in my opinion. I really don't think Miami's going to bet their future on Tua Tagovailoa. I really don't. He's a good guy. I think he played well when he was healthy. But what's going to happen when next year rolls around and he gets his first concussion? He's done. His career is going to be over. That. His career's over if he gets one more concussion. I'm sorry, but it's over. And honestly, I don't know if he should play. Even before that, I think he probably should at least sit out for a while. But I just don't think that the Dolphins, they're in win now mode.
Yeah.
They're the only thing they were lacking, as we saw in that game versus Buffalo, they would have kicked Buffalo's ass if they would have had Teddy Bridgewater or Tua Tagovailoa in that game. I mean, they almost won with Johnny Fitzenbutts or whatever that guy's name was. They almost won with him. Skylar Thompson, the dude from Kansas State. So I think there's some interest with Lamar there in Miami. I think. Tyreek Hill really likes Lamar and they're good friends. They work out in the off season. Lamar lives down there. I really could see the Dolphins going all in and trying to sign Lamar Jackson. But, these are some pretty crazy names available in free agency. And, as we said, there's a couple other guys too that are going to be traded, like our boy from Las Vegas.
And you got Washington's unsettled too. Washington's another potential landing spot for somebody. They've got some weapons there. See what they can do.
Yeah, they need a quarterback big time. I mean, they've been screwing around the last few years. The Colts are another team that needs a quarterback. I mean, I don't see the Colts going into next season with a veteran quarterback. I think they're going to try and get somebody young. They're going to try and get one of these guys in the draft potentially. So there's a lot of teams that need a quarterback. And let's be honest too, the Cardinals. Yeah. The Cardinals need a quarterback. I mean, Kyler Murray's not going to be ready for the start of the season. There's no way.
It's going to be very intriguing. We're going to have to get into that right after the Super Bowl and see what we think these landing spots are going to be. Let's talk about the coaching. A couple of big coaching signings. First of all, Sean Payton to Denver. Not totally unexpected. He's got some talent there. Can he get Russell Wilson back to where Russell Wilson needs to be?
I mean, I don't think so. What did you – I want to ask you a question. Go. What did you see this year watching the Broncos, watching Russell Wilson, that led you to believe that he's going to get back to – I mean, I don't think he was ever as good as he looked sometimes because of the team he was on. But what did you see this year out of him that led you to believe that A, he can, win a bunch of games in that division and get you into a deep playoff run? Did you see something out of him that led you to believe that, no matter who the coach is?
Not what I've seen on the field this year. I have to go back a few years.
That's my point. I didn't see anything this year that led me to believe that he's fixable. I think Sean Payton's a good coach. I think Sean Payton is a really good offensive mind and all of that. But do I think he can go in there and fix this situation? It's going to be a tough gig. I mean, this is a guy who walked away from New Orleans because he didn't want to deal with what was going on there. And so then he goes into this mess. I was really, really surprised that he took this job. I think it's a bad move for his career. I think it could tarnish his legacy. And I think he could be in for a big time problem trying to win games in that division. I mean, let's be honest. Who's he going to beat next year? The Chargers, the Chiefs. I mean, I mean, I think Vegas will be better depending on who they get as their quarterback. This is going to be a real tough gig for him, in my opinion.
Well, the thing I think they're betting on is that for some people that are trying to say, and I don't totally agree with this, that Russell Wilson is, he's kind of built like Drew Brees, so they put, but they're two totally different animals at quarterback. The thing is that you did see this year that good coaching can coax some stuff out of quarterbacks, like what Daboll did with Daniel Jones. Other situations you see where coaching can coax some stuff out. But as you said, which is true, you're not playing against the South. You're playing against the AFC West with Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid aren't going anywhere, and you pointed out everyone that's not going anywhere. So it is going to be difficult. But what job would you have thought would be a better fit for Sean Payton if he really wanted to get back in?
I didn't think he should have taken a job this year. I thought he would interview with a lot of these teams, and then I thought he would stay in the booth one more year and wait for a job. I mean, this is a guy. Let's think about it. Last year there was 8 jobs. This year there was 5.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, opened up during the season. So there really wasn't that many jobs that opened up once the season ended. A lot of times there's a Black Monday and it's just a mass firing. And really that didn't happen this year. And to be honest, a lot of the jobs that were available, Carolina, Indianapolis, Denver, Houston, none of these jobs to me were attractive. If I had his resume, I would have sat and waited. That's just my personal feeling. I've heard a lot of other people say the same exact thing because he's kind of the it guy right now. He's right. Kind of the highest profile coach that is out there, waiting in the wings. And he could have had his pick of jobs. And if I were him, I would have waited for the right one. I wouldn't have just taken the one that I felt was the best.
Yeah, especially when you don't know what the Rams will be like next year or Dallas will be like next year. Those jobs might open up. So you're right. Now, the San Francisco defensive coordinator, another hire down in Houston. I'm scared for this guy going to Houston. First time coach down there, taking over that mess. I mean, and this guy who's all you have to do is look at his last 2 coaches. He doesn't have a long leash. I mean, I don't know. Well, that just the only thing I could say is that might be in his favor. That is, if this owner was to fire him after another year, the NFL would have to come down to this owner and say, "What the hell are you doing?"
I don't know why they're not saying that already. I mean, I understand why D'Amico Ryans took this job. I understand why he thinks he can fix it. But this franchise is just an absolute disaster. I mean, what is on this roster that gives you hope? I mean, there's nothing on this roster that gives me any hope whatsoever. In fact, I'm like you. I feel bad for D'Amico Ryans because look what's happened. I think the last 2 guys that have been there actually did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I thought Pulley did a good job last year. I thought that honestly. I thought the coach this year did a pretty good job. But, both of them got fired and didn't last, an entire season. So I don't know. I'm like you. I feel bad for him, and I'm very, very nervous about the situation he's put himself in here with the Houston Texans. I mean, this team was 3-13-1. They don't have a quarterback. They've got a decent running back, but they don't really have any wide receivers. Laramie Tunsil is a decent tackle. But other than that, there's really nothing that I like on this team.
No, there's no building blocks. And the other thing is, it's not like it's not like he came in with the GM and the GM and him are going to build together like Shane and Daboll did.
Yeah.
It's one of these patchwork things they're always doing down there. And they never seem to get it done because they don't stick with a plan long enough.
Right.
And so now that's what about the rumblings we're hearing from Carolina, from the Steve Wilks camp? Because is this just press just trying to stir the pot, or could there be some legs to the fact that the players really wanted Steve Wilks and are upset that Frank Reich's being brought in.
Well, I think the players are disappointed for sure. The owner comes out and says, we're going to let Steve have a tryout for this position, this head coaching position. If he does something that's really, that stands out, if he does a good enough job, he's a potential candidate for this job. That's what was said. And I don't know how you could look at where they were when he took over and where they were at the end of the season and not say he didn't do a tremendous job. I mean, this guy, they were in the gutter. They got rid of, this horrible coach who had run this franchise into the ground. And then you got rid of all the good players, Robbie Anderson, your 1,000-yard receiver, Christian McCaffrey, the face of your franchise. And he goes and wins, goes 6-6 with Sam Darnold at quarterback. I mean, I thought he did a really good job, and I thought he earned that head coaching job. And to go and hire Frank Reich, who just got fired in the middle of the season for the Colts, I think it's a very, very bad look, and I can understand why there's questions being asked and why the players are upset. And I'm sure that Coach Wilkes is upset. Yeah. What the hell you got? I'm sure he's asking, what was it that you wanted me to do? Did you want him to win the Super Bowl? Was he supposed to go to the division championship? What did you want him to do with that roster?
No, I totally agree, because I mean, he walked into a bad situation, and I mean, Frank Reich, I think really needed some time away as well. I don't think, Frank Reich, he jumping back in the saddle is a good thing for him. I think he should take some time as an OC for a while, or a quarterback coach, and get his feet underneath him. So it could be bad for both coaches there. So let's swing ahead. Let's go back to last weekend. We'll start with the worst game. The Eagles are just damn better than the Giants. Or not the better Giants than San Francisco. I mean, the way they came out, it didn't help that they on his second throw, you lose Brock Purdy, and as always happens when something like this comes by, and it's true. At least for the playoffs, they should have 3 quarterbacks available.
Yeah, I mean they used to have that. Yeah. That used to be a thing where you had a third quarterback who didn't count against a roster spot, but could be inserted in the game. The quarterback that went out couldn't come back in, but you could do this. So I have no idea why they ever took that away. That doesn't make any sense, because we all once Brock Purdy got hurt, we all thought this is pretty much over. But Josh Johnson led him down the field a couple of times, or at least one time where he took him deep into Eagle territory. And, Christian McCaffrey, capped that drive off with a 23-yard touchdown run. And the game was, still within reach at that point. I believe it was 14-7 at that point.
Then the end of the half, it fell apart.
Yeah, well, and then Johnson goes down. Yeah. Well, and then I thought they would have been better served by putting Christian McCaffrey back there, quarterback, or playing the wide receiver for Jawan Jennings. He was a quarterback at Tennessee before they converted him to a wide receiver. I mean, somebody that could throw the ball more than 5 yards. I mean, I just didn't understand why they put an injured Brock Purdy, who, we've now learned had a torn UCL, and you put him back in the game. Who's to say he didn't get hurt worse by being out there? I mean, he may have. And now his starting quarterback position is in jeopardy because of this injury. And I just think this was just a bad decision over there. And I understood what they were doing, but it was hard to watch.
It was totally hard to watch. I mean, it's too bad that Garoppolo wasn't ready to go, so that would have been another option. But as it turned out. But I mean, on the flip side of that coin, in their 2 playoff games right now, the Eagles look very, very good, and almost like they're on a mission with I don't care. Jalen Hurts at 70% seems to be better than most quarterbacks 100.
Yeah, he is, and I'm glad that they have a couple of weeks off because Jalen can get right hopefully and be 100% for the Super Bowl. But even as you said, even if he's not 100%, they've got Miles Sanders, they've got Kenneth Gainwell, they've got Boston Scott. They've got a really good running attack, and this defense has been underrated all year long. Hassan Reddick, another game. I mean, I feel like we talk about this guy every second that we're on this show. I mean, 2 sacks again, another tackle for loss, a QB hit, forced fumble. I mean, this guy is just a beast. As I mentioned last week, he is the #1 value player in the NFL, in my opinion. He recovered a fumble as well. He was all over the place. And, I just love what they've done with this defense. I mean, think about it. Nakobe Dean has been out the entire year. He was their, not their first draft pick because Jordan Davis was their first draft pick, but Nakobe Dean was their second draft pick. And then they lost, their veteran defensive end, Derek Barnett, who's been out all year. And you can't really tell.
Well, and then the other thing that, we don't bring up enough is the 2 cornerbacks, Bradbury and Slay. I mean, when you have 2 cornerbacks like that, it gives the defensive coordinator license to just kill because they can lock down their guys by themselves, and you do all kinds of things with safeties and linebackers and coverages, and it's going to be tough on Kansas City against this team. It's going to be very, very tough.
Well, they've got pass rush. As far as the Eagles go, as I just mentioned with Hassan Reddick, they've got, the defensive tackles that can get after him. They got Robert Quinn is healthy again, Fletcher Cox, the crafty veteran, Ndamukong Suh, Hargrave, all those guys can get after it. And then, as you mentioned, the 2 corners with Bradbury and also Slay. Well, we forget C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who, Howie Roseman traded for right at the beginning of the season. That might be one of the best acquisitions all year long. This guy is one of the leaders in the league in interceptions, and he is just a really good cover guy. So they've got 3 really good corners who can travel to either side of the field and cover anybody. And then, as you mentioned, I like their safeties too. So I think it's going to be tough. Kansas City better get their receivers healthy. Because, as we saw at the end of the Bengals game, Pat really didn't have anybody to throw it to.
No.
He had to run. He had a busted ankle, and he had to run for the damn first down.
Yeah, let's go to that game. It was, as a friend of mine said to me last night at the trivia night, he goes, that was a pretty good, ugly game. It wasn't the prettiest game to watch. Mahomes gutting it out on one leg. Burrow got off to a little bit of a slow start, but they brought it at the end. And again, if you leave too much time on the clock, Kansas City will make you pay.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City really kind of dominated this game. I mean, they time of possession, total yards. They should have been winning by more, but there was 2 touchdowns that were called back. They settled for field goals with both of those instead of getting touchdowns. And they also had, injuries galore in their wide receivers. McCole Hardman got hurt. Kadarius Toney went down. They just kept losing guys to the sideline. Travis Kelce had back spasms. He wasn't even guaranteed that he was going to play going into the game. He was questionable up until game time. So the fact that the Chiefs pulled this game out was unbelievable. But you know what? We give Joe Burrow a ton of praise all the time, and rightfully so. But I think we need to also look at the fact that those 2 interceptions were both very costly.
Yeah, it was not his best game. And, even the first game in the playoffs, he wasn't that sharp. He didn't have a sharp playoffs. But I mean, the flip side of that is always good quarterbacks know how to win when they're not having their best days. And he gave his team a chance to win.
Yep.
It just, I was so out of my head with the penalty. I don't root against Kansas City, but they're getting their stories getting to me the way a lot of people look at the Golden State Warrior in the NBA, the Warrior story. Yeah, Curry's a great player. Mahomes a great player. It's a little bit too cute. You just can't. Can you just step away a little bit? Let me learn about somebody else for a little while. It's just that. That's just going through my mind with them.
Hey, well, you know what? I think that's what really makes it amazing, what they've done. We all talk about how great that division is and how great it's been for a long time. Well, the only team that's won it is the damn Chiefs. They've won it 6 times in a row. Think about Patrick Mahomes. He's going to his 3rd Super Bowl now in the last 4 years.
At the age of 27.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty freaking phenomenal. And don't get me wrong, Patrick Mahomes is good. He's very, 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 very good player, very, very good quarterback. But you take him and you put him on another team besides the Chiefs, and I don't think you have near the success that he's had.
It's kind of another one of these cases where the quarterback finally has the perfect coach for what he likes to do.
Yep.
Andy Reid is the ultimate offensive creative mind, and he is a quarterback that he could probably, just like when Belichick had Brady, you'd sit there and go, yeah, it's a perfect combination. Joe Montana and Walsh, those were the guys that just fit their vision of what the kind of offense they want to run. Andy Reid loves to have 70,000 options and be able to, he loves running those trick plays, especially down in the red zone and, and 4th and 1. And, Mahomes gives him the ultimate weapon to do that with.
Yeah, there's no doubt. He's the perfect quarterback for Andy Reid's system. There's no doubt, and that was my point. I mean, he's in the perfect spot. He got drafted to the perfect place. He was able to sit and learn for a year because he really wasn't ready, and he got to learn under a guy that shared his knowledge and his acumen as a quarterback in Alex Smith. And it's just a perfect spot for him. And you take him off that team and put him on the Browns, and we may not know who Patrick Mahomes is. And I don't see them slowing down. I mean, a lot of people thought Tyreek Hill getting removed from this roster was going to be a big problem for the Chiefs, and doesn't seem to be a problem to me.
Yeah, the guy's got him. The bar, they're raising the bar all the time. I mean, right now, Cincinnati is the only team that's really, answered the challenge. Buffalo still got a little bit of ways to go, and the Chargers still have a little way to go. But it looks like the AFC is going to be very, very competitive for the next decade. One thing I want to talk about, because I'm starting to hear a lot of rumblings, and I even had a lot of rumblings. I don't usually get into this. Overall, your vision or your opinion of how the refereeing has been in the playoffs this year.
It's been pretty bad. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you can't watch these games and think that consistency is a word that describes the officiating. I think it's been pretty horrible. In fact, I thought that the first half, the first 3 quarters, honestly, were kind of all geared towards the Bengals, and there was some pretty horrible calls against Kansas City. And then towards the end of the game, it kind of flipped. And so I don't know. I'm not saying that these people that say it's fixed and that the games are rigged and all that crap, you know what? Why the hell are you watching it if you think that it's rigged? Why the hell are you betting on it if you think that it's fake? It's not. It's just human beings making bad choices. But the thing is, they need to have it. They need to get it right. They need to do these quick reviews that they've started to do anyway. They need to have somebody in the sky judge, watching each play. Each play should be reviewable. If there's a flag thrown and it's a horrible call, they should be able to pick it up and get rid of it. I mean, I'm so sick of seeing these, roughing the passers that aren't roughing the passers that change the game, or these hits out of bounds that aren't out of bounds. Now I do think the hit on Mahomes was a late hit out of bounds. Could you potentially let that go? Maybe. I mean, I didn't really have a problem with that call. The guy shouldn't have touched him. He was in the white. It's the quarterback. It's Patrick Mahomes. You think they weren't going to call that? Yeah, they're going to. That was a stupid play by the guy. But some of the other calls were pretty bad, and I don't understand why they don't just fix it have each play be reviewable, and have an eye in the sky, getting it right. Because I think that's what I think that's where the frustration is coming in, is that people are just frustrated that we're not focused on what's important, which is getting it right.
Well, yeah, and and to prove to your point, or to agree with you, is like it's kind of unfair when the coaches only get so many challenges. So if he uses his challenges up early and then he needs one late in the game, that thing just goes no matter what, because no one can challenge it, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed there was a challenge that they won, and yet he still lost his challenge. Did you notice that?
Was that the one with the Bengals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they won the challenge, yet they said he doesn't have any more challenges left. But I thought that if you got it right, you got it back.
Don't lose it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That really confused me during the game.
But yeah, it was it was one of those things that I don't usually, like I said, I don't usually get on the referees, because I know they have a hard job. We discussed this at length too, about I think that you should have full-time referees. It's $1 billion industry. You can afford them.
Yeah.
You don't need to get these. I'm sorry. Happened to me in sports writing, guys. It's a nice gig if you can get it as an extra gig, but you need full-time guys. You know what I mean? It's like it makes no sense. And guys that are younger and in shape that can run with these guys. Yeah. I just don't understand why they're not doing something about that.
Oh, pay them more. I mean, ex-players would go and do it if the money was better. I mean, hell, I would get in shape and get out there if they paid it a little bit more.
Yeah, how many players get cut every training camp that are out on the street waiting?
Yeah, or guys that are veterans that get cut just because they're making the veteran minimum instead of rookies or undrafted free agents that they could pay a couple $100,000 to, as opposed to $5 million. Put those guys out there. They know the game. They're very knowledgeable about it and the rules, and they could be coached up pretty quickly, I think, with this type of gig. So I don't really understand the whole part-time ref thing. Make it a full-time job, and like I said, have an eye in the sky that can do a quick review to help them get things right.
All right, I don't want to get into the Super Bowl until next week, but a couple of things off the football path I want to get to. What happened to Tennessee last night?
Oh, in basketball?
Yeah.
That was a rough game, buddy.
I only got to see the early part of it because I was doing my trivia stuff, but man, they looked bad right from the beginning.
Yeah, it was, they finally laid an egg. This is a team that pretty much all year has played really good basketball. And I've seen every game. I've been to every single home game. So, I'm very, very knowledgeable about this team, but I can't really explain what happened last night. The defense is what this team thrives on. Their shutdown defense. They've held several teams to 40 points or less over the course of the season. And last night they gave a team that honestly isn't that good. They made them look good, and they got beat 67-54 by a Florida team. I mean, Castleton had 20 points, including 16 in the second half, and Kyle Lofton had 14 points. And this is the biggest win for Todd Golden since he's been at Florida. So I don't know. This is the highest ranking the Volunteers have had in 4 years. They got up to number 2. I was like, man, this is good. They're gonna be able to kind of thrive off of this, and instead they laid an egg. So I hope that they bounce back, because the Vols have another one on Saturday at home against Auburn.
I mean, I root for Rick Barnes, so I'd love to see him finally get it. It seems like he's the only thing he hasn't won is a national championship. Has he been to a Final Four, Rick Barnes?
I think he went to one Final
Texas?
Four with Texas.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. But the big thing to me with this team is that they need to get a little bit more out of Phillips. Julian Phillips is their big freshman. This kid is an NBA player waiting to happen. But, last night, 6 points, 4 boards in 30 minutes. That's not going to get it done. He needs to get the ball more on offense. He needs to be thinking to score. He needs to take it to the basket. And I've, you know what? I'm never going to question Rick Barnes. He's won 900 and something more games than I have.
Right.
So I don't really want to question him. But some of the substitution patterns just really confuse me with this team sometimes. I don't get it.
Yeah, and I hear our friend Jim Boeheim's having a little bit of problems because his team's not doing well, and he's getting cranky again, yelling at Sportswriter. What a classy guy.
Why is he still there? Is my question. I don't understand why he's still there. It's not like he's been tearing it up the last few years. Syracuse hasn't even been good. There's been so many scandals up there. He seemed to survive them all. And, I think, the winning has allowed him to survive all these scandals, but they don't even win anymore. They suck. And yet he still keeps his job. And I really don't get it. I'm very confused by it.
In college basketball, besides Tennessee, what teams have you looked at this year that you're kind of been on your radar?
Purdue is definitely, one that sticks out to me. I mean, they're 22-1. They took down a decent Penn State team last night at home, 80-60. They're a team that honestly people aren't even really talking about that much, but they should be. Gillis is their forward. Last night against Penn State, he had 29 points off the bench. He only played 24 minutes. He had 29 points. They've also got their center, Edey, who had 18 points and 13 rebounds. This is a team that can do a lot of the same things Tennessee can. They can defend. They've got good players down low. And, they're a Big Ten team that can bang it up. So I like Purdue. Besides that, I don't know. I mean, I've got to think about it as far as who I think has a chance to, win it all because I'm not sure right now. I mean, it's kind of crazy how much the polls change every week. Alabama was a team that was ranked number 2 last week, and they got beat by over 30 points. Kansas State has looked good at times. Houston is a team that's 20-2 right now, but nobody's really talking about. Arizona is ranked number 5. Kansas to me is a team that I think is overrated. I've watched them get dismantled several times. And then Texas too, is a team that's ranked pretty high, but Tennessee kicked the crap out of them on last Saturday afternoon. So UCLA is another team that I think has a potential to make a run, but they had a bad loss last week too. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens down the stretch. I mean, we're in the thick of it. You would think by now, I mean, a lot of these teams have played 22, 23, 24 games.
Yeah.
We should have some clear-cut favorites, but we don't.
Well, I think, I think when you look at Purdue, Painter just hasn't had that signature game or that signature run that you can look at. I mean, a couple of years ago, Purdue made a nice run when we were talking to Aaron Wheeler. But the fact of the matter is like he never seems to get that championship win in the Big Ten or something. Everybody, wow, he's finally arrived. He finally knows what he's doing. He's been in Purdue forever. I mean, what do you think about Matt Painter?
I think he's a good coach. I really do. I think that's why I named them first. I think they have a chance to win. To win the whole thing this year. I really do. I think they've got a shot to win the Big Ten. I think they're the favorite, and I think they've got a shot to win the whole damn tournament. I mean, they're a team that's deep. They're a team that can score. They can defend. They can do pretty much everything. So I feel like this is probably his most complete team, but he's had good teams before. It's just I think this team is probably the best one I've seen of his, and I don't know if he's let me down in the past. I wouldn't say that. I think he's done a pretty good job since he's taken over there, and I think he's a really good coach.
It's so weird to look at the rankings and not see Duke or Villanova in them.
Yeah, I didn't really want to talk about that.
I know you're a Duke guy, but I mean, Jay Wright did it to Villanova just as well. I mean, man, you lose your probably the top coaches in those two schools' histories. And
well, yeah, I mean, Coach K is obviously the best coach of all time, in my opinion, and one of the best coaches of all time, no matter what anyone says. And I think what we're seeing is how good he was. I mean, this team is just as talented, if not more talented, than the last few teams that he had. But it was him, and he knew how to get these guys to play. He knew how to get it done, and they're all kind of learning together down there, and it hasn't gone as planned. But I wouldn't count this Duke team out. They've got so much talent that they still have a shot. And we were talking about Purdue a second ago. Purdue went to the Sweet 16 in last year in 2022. They went to the Elite Eight in 2019, as we mentioned with the run. And they went to the second round in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2022. He's had a lot of runs in the NCAA tournament. In fact, he's done better in the NCAA tournament than he has in the Big Ten. They haven't won the conference tournament since 2009. So, they did win the regular season championship in 2019. But I think this year is the year that I expect them to win the Big Ten.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, and then you have Virginia, who's doing quite well in the ACC. Clemson. Villanova, I mean, Providence is back up in the Big East. They're doing well. UConn started out hot, but now has kind of fallen back as the competition. That's why I never take those December games too seriously, because they put a bunch of teams on their schedule that they know they can win.
Yeah.
So it's like, and when all these people start talking about rankings in November and December, I go, pump the brakes a little bit. Pump the brakes. You never know what's going to happen there.
Well, no one's talking about Florida Atlantic too. I mean, Florida Atlantic's 21-1. They've moved up a couple spots in the polls. I think they're ranked number 19 right now in the AP poll, and they've got a sneaky good team. And another team that no one's really talking about, but who is one of my favorites to win the ACC is Miami. They're 16-5. Remember last year they made a deep run in the tournament, and it's a different team this year, but still a team that's having a lot of success. So it's very strange to me to look at, the top 25, looking at college basketball. There's no Duke, there's no North Carolina, Clemson and Miami, two predominantly football schools, are kind of racking up the ACC, which I think is funny.
Yeah, so that should be an interesting. We'll have some stuff to talk about that come March time. A couple other things. Rumor has it that Tommy Rees might be leaving Notre Dame for Roll Tide Roll.
That is a rumor. Now, there's been a couple of people that have been interviewed in the last few days. So we'll see what happens with that. But, I could see him going there. I think it would be a very good move for him, to be honest, just with with some of the things that have happened at Notre Dame with the offense, the way it was this year. I think it would be a good move for him, especially if he wants to potentially be a head coach, or if he wants to, go to the NFL. I think it would be a good move for him to go to Alabama. Now, once again, here's Nick Saban losing both his coordinators. Golding's gone. Bill O'Brien's going back to the Patriots. He's going to have to retool and fill the shed back up, and he's no spring chicken. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Alabama here in this offseason. And then, the big news down here in the SEC country is the quarterback Rashada, who decommitted from the University of Florida after his $13 million NIL deal fell through. He got released from his letter of intent and took off and signed with Arizona State today.
Oh, that's interesting. Why did his deal fall through?
Well, apparently he was promised this large NIL package from some of the members of the collective, who apparently didn't talk to the rest of the members of the collective. And so they promised this kid funds that they didn't have. And so when he came on and he signed and he walked on the campus, he's like, "Where's my money?" And they're like, "Oh, we don't have it." And he said, well, then I'm out of here. And he took off. So there's gonna be more of this. Okay.
Yeah.
This Jaden Rashada kid is not the only one that's going to be doing this, and it is not the only one that's going to be promised things that he's not going to get.
Oh, true.
And think about it. He's like the number 31 ranked prospect. He's like the 6th or 7th rated quarterback. This isn't like the number 1 rated quarterback in the country. He's just kind of a guy, and he was promised more than $13.5 million. But the collective terminated their agreement with him, and this was supposed to be paid out over 4 years. It got canceled, and he's like, I'm done. And now he went and looked at Cal, he looked at Washington, he looked at TCU, Arizona State, and now he's decided to go to Arizona State. So somebody out there must have decided to give him cash. Arizona State's got some big time boosters now. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because Arizona State also has Drew Pine, from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They've also got Jacob Conover, another quarterback who transferred from BYU. And then they got another quarterback Israel Carter, who's from Centennial High School in California, that they recruited this year. So they've already got 3 quarterbacks, and now they're adding Rashada. It should be interesting to see. But can we talk about the Buckeyes for 1 second?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I always do. So why don't we continue the trend? The Buckeyes fixed a lot of their problems yesterday as they signed the number 1 rated player in the portal. You're going to have to help me with his last name, Davison Igbinosun, the cornerback out of Ole Miss. He's a big-time baller. I honestly didn't really – I kept hearing the rumblings. I kept hearing that the crystal ball was predicting that he was going to the Buckeyes, but I didn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it till I saw it, and now it's a done deal. And this, as we saw in that Georgia game in the fourth quarter, that secondary has been a problem for the Buckeyes, or was a problem all year long. And to get this kid signed and on campus is going to be big for Ryan Day and the Buckeyes. My only worry now is the offensive line.
Oh, no, offensive line.
They'll be fine at quarterback. Whoever the quarterback is and whoever wins the job will be in New York at the Heisman Trophy ceremony. But the offensive line concerns me. Paris Johnson Jr. stepped in, didn't allow a sack all year long. He's going to be drafted in the first round. The right tackle, DeJuan Jones, 6'8", 375, has been dominating down at the Senior Bowl in Mobile. He's going to be a first-round pick. So they got 2 guys, both tackles, both bookends, are going to be drafted in the first round. Well, who the hell is going to be playing next year? That's my concern.
I'm sure that they will find somebody. They always do. Yep. But I guess that's it for us tonight. We got the Super Bowl picks coming up next week, and all the gossip around that. Also, take a look at what happens in the Senior Bowl. I know you always keep an eye on that. I keep hearing this stuff about Will Levis. I don't see it. I don't get it. But
yeah, I'm not a big Will Levis guy. I saw him play, in person. I just don't. I don't see it, but a lot of guys who really stepped up today in practice for the Senior Bowl is Houston wide receiver Tank Dell. No one's really been able to cover him. I watched a lot of tape today. I didn't really know a lot about him until I watched him play. And then a guy who I talked about all year long on man coverage, Tulane running back Tyjae Spears. This guy, he gets it, man. He's a hard worker. He's got the cutting ability. He's got the speed. Another kid that, no one's really mentioned all year long, but is a kid who I think is possibly working his way into a first or second round draft selection is Will McDonald IV out of Iowa State. He's an edge rusher who's a little bit light in his butt, 245 pounds, but he's got the quicks. He's got that bend. He can get out there and get after it because he's a lot faster than people thought he was. He abused Tennessee offensive tackle Darnell Wright all day today. And I think he's going to be someone that's going to really stand out But other than that, James would be happy to know that the Minnesota center, John Michael Schmitz, love his name. He's continued to impress as well. But I don't see it with your boy from Kentucky. We'll see if he happens. But some people have been comparing him to Josh Allen, and I couldn't think those two guys were any more different than they are.
Only if you look at them from behind and they're the same size. So we don't know.
Yeah, I mean they kind of look similar, I guess, but I don't see it.
We're gonna have to see what happens. All right, my friend. You have a good weekend. What's coming up on man coverage this week?
We're going to be talking Senior Bowl, man. We're going to be, going into it more in depth, just like I was just talking about the guys that impressed me today. As I mentioned, Tank Dell and Will McDonald, as well as Tyjae Spears from Tulane. We're going to also break it down by position. Which guys do we think are most impressive from each position, and which guys we think will really stand out in the game, and which guys are going to help their stock, and which guys are may hurt themselves by being there. But, as I mentioned, DeJuan Jones is a guy that I think really helped himself by going to the Senior Bowl. You just can't teach 6'8", 375. And I just, a lot of these guys, like Rick Neuheisel, for example, he's been around college football a long time. He said he's never seen somebody that big move that well. I mean, DeJuan Jones was a basketball player in high school, and a damn good one. And that's because he's got really, really good feet. And that's hard to believe, somebody who's 6'8", 375 pounds that can move around as well as he can. So I think a lot of guys want him to potentially play left tackle. He's never played left tackle. He's been the right tackle for the Buckeyes for 3 years. But I could see him potentially getting moved over to the left side if there's a team that has a need there and drafts him.
Well, if you got a guy that size with that good of feet, that's who you want guarding the blind side. So
no doubt.
All right. We'll say goodnight today, and we will be back next week. Tune in to man coverage on Sunday. Everybody, thanks for tuning in tonight. See you later, Nate.
Adios, bye.